Hi, everybody, and welcome to this session of Ask the Experts. I'm here with the one and only, the wonderful, the amazing, the indomitable Vera Goodman. And I'm happy to have you here, Vera, because I have always been or long been a fan of yours. You have such an incredible amount of energy. I love your style. And you are the definition of the Energizer Bunny. Plus, you're a whole bunch of good things in the world. So I'm excited to have you here and to talk to you about what you're doing and the charities and the work that you're doing. But also, I know a lot of the entrepreneurial people in our group and those who are kind of reinventing themselves, transitioning and stuff, would love to hear from you in terms of how you keep going. How do you keep doing what you're doing? So why don't we start with you just telling us a little bit about you. So tell us a bit of your background and how you got involved in this charity that you've created.
Well, thank you, Jannette, for the compliments. I think I've always been a teacher, and I can point back to when I was about 4 years old, where I think I was chosen for the work I'm doing now. And I went to university in Seattle and at University of Calgary, got a master's degree. And so that's my educational background. I've done many, many things. My husband and I started Pioneer Ranch Camp at Sundre. I taught in Calgary for 15 years, and I have been active in many, many different ways throughout the years, but always teaching. It seems to have been my plague or my blessing. I'm not sure which.
I think, no doubt. And how did you get so passionate about reading? Because that's your primary focus and has been for a long time, as long as I've known you.
Yeah, well, of course I love reading, and the gift I've been given, Jannette, is that I can simplify things. And I do a lot of personal research and reading, and somehow I'm able to bring things down to their simplicity. And so I've been able to reduce reading to quite a simple equation. And right now I do consultations, and I can turn people who can't read around in as little as one session, and I guarantee it. And it doesn't matter what their problem is.
Wow.
So now I've put that online as a course, and I'm sharing the exercises that I developed that allow me to do that over the years. And I'm sharing that now with anybody who wants to have my online course. And when they learn how to do my little work that I do, for the rest of their life, they'll be able to help people who struggle with reading. So I think that's, because that is such a unique thing, it's one of the things that keeps me going. And I feel very sorry for kids who can't read. I have great compassion.
Yeah.
It must be awful. Like, it's my main thing in life, so.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you created a program about it and a charity. So tell us what the charity is and what it's doing, or the work that you're doing overseas with literacy and reading.
Well, there's two focuses to my work. There's the reading part of it, and then I've developed a new way to teach, a new model of education I call the story circle model. And it is based in orally shared story and delivered through music, art, drama, and then, of course, teaching and reading and writing and other things. But those are focuses of the delivery. And it is, I had to prove it, how powerful it was. So I raised $30,000 without a charity to send 4 people to Ethiopia, 3 South Sudanese and 1 Caucasian. And I sent them for 6 weeks, and they piloted the story circle model with street kids in the city of Gambela, Ethiopia. And it was, I say, wildly successful. It has been so life-changing for those kids. And the volunteers that were working with them, now they've taken it over, and they're doing an amazing job with it. And so it's proved the 3 things that I want to prove by sending that group over there. First of all, that it's a very powerful model. Secondly, it's inexpensive to operate. It costs a lot to send all those people, but the program itself is quite inexpensive to operate. Mm-hmm. And that it is spreadable. That if we could set up one model in each country, mm-hmm. then they can take it away, because it's very much a framework is what it is, a framework that you can hang your ideas on. And I am just amazed at how this volunteer, Highland is his name over there, has taken it on. And the amazing thing he's doing with those kids. It's as if he has a natural instinct. I think everyone does. I think everyone has talents. And he's so proud of it. Now they call him teacher, and he's doing such an amazing work. So that's the second phase. And that's the one that I don't have a charity, but I have a charity that I can receive donations and give receipts. I do have a nonprofit. And through the nonprofit, we're going to, and actually, I think I might be going to Ethiopia in August because they really want me to come. And I think it's very important to establish a base there, a foundation, so that other countries can use that as a model to follow, because I have interest from 4 or 5 other countries and many people who are interested in this. My whole goal in it is to take it around the world to underprivileged kids who don't have a chance to have schools because of war and ethnic cleansing and all sorts of reasons. They can't go to school, and they can do this without having a formal building and without having formal teaching.
Wow. And so how did you pick Ethiopia to start with, and that particular people and so forth?
Yeah, well, because I thought this is very good for refugee camps, but I didn't know anything about refugee camps. So I knew someone who was in touch with the South Sudanese community here in Calgary, and I said, could you find somebody there to tell me about refugee camps? So she sent a man and his wife to visit me, and they were from South Sudan. They were refugees, and since he came to Calgary, he's upgraded and got a bachelor's and a master's in psychology, and so he's doing very well. And he and I and his wife were the ones who decided that that's where we would go, because they knew a lot of people there. They had the ways to get us into things, and that's how that all got started.
Awesome. So I love, part of what I've always been inspired about with you is that you have this notion of something I want to do, and then you just go, okay, now how do I make this happen? Who do I need to contact? Who knows someone who will be able to help me? And then things start to fall in place, and dominoes start to fall, and people get on board to support you because you're just eminently, lovable, and people want to support you. And so you make shit happen just by going, okay, well, how do I do this? You don't have, background in it or a lot of resources. So for all those people who have as excuses, well, I don't know how to do it, and I don't have the resources, and I don't have the education, and I don't have the infrastructure. Ha! Horse puckies is what I say to that.
Yeah, I'm very spontaneous, I guess, in a lot of ways. And I go into things, really foolishly, probably, without knowing all that I need to know. But if you don't do that, you'll never do it. If you take up all the possible failure.
That's right. Sometimes being informed can be an impediment. So that kind of naive, just do it energy has carried you a long ways, including literally halfway around the world, if not further.
Well, I've always been really interested in people and in networking. You know that. We go back a long ways, Jannette.
Yeah.
And I've always been trying to increase my circle of influence by increasing the number of people that I know and that support me. Yeah. And a lot of them have been willing to come along with me. Like, I raised that $30,000 without a charity because 4 people who could afford to do so gave me $5,000 each without receipt, without anything, just as a gift. Now that's a miracle.
Yeah.
This old lady, do you know how old I am?
I don't know how old you are.
I'm almost 85 years old.
All right.
So this old lady decided she wanted to pilot this thing in the world, and these people had enough confidence in me to just do that. So I think that's a miracle.
That's awesome. And yeah, that's lovely. It's a lovely testament to you, but it's also a really lovely testament to them. And so when did you get started in all of this? Because I know I've known you for probably 15 years or something like that, but when did you get started with creating a reading program and really going down this path?
I don't know how I could even answer that. I've always been terribly interested in doing things creatively and in a different way. And I taught in Calgary for 15 years, and I was known as someone who took theory and made it into practical. Mm-hmm. And so I always tried to make my students happy, because if you're not happy, you're not going to learn. So I don't know. I just always wanted to find different ways to do things. And out of that, I read an awful lot. And you know what was interesting? I took ideas from physics and science and all sorts of other things and applied them to reading. I had a gift of being able to do that. And then as a result, I devised this method that I have now of turning people's minds around and helping them to access their experience so they can read.
Yeah.
So that's really hard for me to answer.
So I know it's a system or a process, but how do you get people to read in one session?
Well, I changed the focus of the central cortex of their brain. That's what a linguist told me, and I want to do research around that. And I do it through just a series of exercises that I've devised, which people can find by going and getting my course. So
Okay.
I don't know. It's I'm not sure exactly what I do.
Okay. Well, and that's called conscious incompetence. Okay. No, unconscious competence. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And so how do you, just kind of switching tactics here for a moment, or focus for a moment? And by the way, before we finish, we'll get a link and we'll post a link to your reading program. So where can people go to get the reading program?
My website is www.readingwings.com.
Readingwings.com. Okay, that's where the program is. And is there information on there as well about the teaching methodology that you're spreading?
The story circle model.
Yeah.
There is a small amount about that, but I am developing another website for that because they're really two different things. Although the story circle model certainly improves reading, and I know how to teach another language with it. So we're teaching English in Ethiopia, and it's amazingly successful. And so we're doing reading, but you know something? What I believe about reading, it should never be taught. There should never be a subject of reading. It should always be taught in the course of doing other things.
Oh, okay.
And that's what my story circle model does.
Oh, okay, interesting. And so if people wanted to support the story circle model, the spread of that, or support you in the work that you're doing, how would they get a hold of you?
Well, I think they should email me because I don't have much about the fundraising on my website yet.
Right. Okay.
I'm so busy, I haven't had time to really work on that or get someone to work on it.
So what's your email address?
I'm snowed under with projects and things, but
I know.
and I'm keeping up, which is amazing.
Yes, I know it is.
Okay, my email is very, very easy. It's Vera.
Yeah.
Readingwings.com.
Vera@readingwings.com. Okay, so
if they come there, I'll tell them more about it, and I'll tell them how to make contributions if they want to help me.
Okay, awesome. So what I want to do is ask kind of a broader question. You're 85. You've been doing this work for decades and decades. How do you keep going year after year? And what's the key to your longevity in business and in making a difference and in all of the passions that you have?
I think part of it is because I know how important what I have to share is to the world. And I want to put it in the world for other people to take over from me before I pass on to whatever reward I'm going to have on the other side, if there is one. But, and I'm going to share something that, I don't even know if this is true, Jannette, but this is what kind of sustains me. I feel I'm in the flow of the universe, and I've had, over the last 8 years, maybe all my life, an invisible team of guides and angels, and it's their program, and they have brought it on in the time that they want it to be brought on and in the way they want it. And I just see myself as a physical body that they can work through. And so I talk to them a little bit crazy, I guess. Like I talk to them all the time. And I take guidance and I get guidance. And I have no idea if that's true or not. We don't know what's on the other side, really.
Right.
But you know what? It's good for me because it keeps me energetic and focused. And I've had some assurances from that little team that they are going to keep be energetic and healthy for a while so that I can do this. And
That's,
everybody can access that team. It's nothing special for me.
yeah, I agree, and I love the humility of that, of being the channel that the universe can work through. I love that, and what I love is that you're tying it to also receiving that support energetically for your physical body, for your energy, for your mind, and keeping all of that going. That when you're in that collaboration, then you're also being supported not only with the passion and the calling, but also being really supported in keeping going with.
I'm really totally healthy. There's nothing wrong with my body. And I think I can stay healthy if I'm careful with myself. And I
That's
do this for a while yet.
That's awesome. I love it. So, speaking of that, how do you take care of yourself? So, what is the key to living bodaciously in your golden years or even before your golden years? So, how do you take care of yourself?
I don't do anything really special. I try to eat well and get some exercise, not enough. And I don't know. I actually do feel that I'm getting help through because I have the energy of the universe. I think we can ask for healing from that power that some people call God or whatever you want to call it. But I think we can ask for healing for our bodies for that. And
Yep.
I'm constantly asking my guides to keep me healthy. I really don't know how to answer that because I'm not doing anything special. I
That's
want to give you a little tip here, though. I heard it on Oprah, and you can use this for yourself too.
okay.
How I can define myself. And this fellow said, I'm an ordinary person with an extraordinary gift.
Mm,
Isn't that beautiful?
it is.
That's who we are. We have gifts and talents. And
I'm writing that one down.
yeah, maybe I should talk to some of the young women, especially who are listening to this today, with some advice about how to find your talents and your gifts.
Yeah, please do.
Don't you think that's really important?
I do. I think it is. And I think that we have lost in our society the tradition of elders passing down wisdom. And I think therefore we've lost a lot of wisdom. And there's a lot of people searching desperately because we don't have that connection. We don't have community. So yeah, by all means, what is your advice for how to find your extraordinary gifts?
Well, school kills a lot of kids search for this because they have to just conform and they can't find what their gift is.
Yeah.
So I think one of the ways to find what your gift is to get really interested in people.
Mm.
That's been a secret of my life. I'm terribly interested in people and who they are and what they do. And that's why I love networking so much.
Yeah.
And I think you have to cultivate it. It's something you have to do purposefully. Just get interested in people. You and I both know Tony Estevez.
Mm-hmm.
He, for every day for 365 days, he made it a point to meet a new person in a restaurant or in line or wherever he was. And he talked to them and got their story from them. And he recorded their story. And now he's making a book out of that.
Cool.
And, we don't all have to make it that purposeful. But I think it's very easy when you meet new people to just find out. And I try when I leave talking to someone new to think, what did I learn about them? Or what did I learn from them? So that I'm kind of make sure that they tell their stories to me in some fashion. And they don't have to be long.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think another secret of that is to get a special journal.
Mm-hmm.
And in that journal, you write down the names of the new people you meet and something about them. Because that makes you focus
Yep.
on who you know, right?
This is my special journal. Instead of Bright Ideas, it's Bright Women. And every time I meet a new woman, I write down about her and notes from the call. That's so funny.
I know that that's really an important thing to do. And I don't do that as much as I should. But what I do, and I have been doing for 25 years probably, every book I read and every movie that I see it affects me emotionally, not every movie, or every conversation I have, or magazine article I read, or anything like that, I note it in my journal. So I have a record of all the books I've read.
Wow.
And what it does for you, we only learn by reflecting on things. It's the reflection on what's happened that is how we learn. So when you write it down, you have to reflect on who you've met or what you've learned. And it's through that you store it and you benefit from it, even if you never get time to read it again. I don't know. Do you agree with that?
Totally. And I actually haven't ever heard it rephrased that way, that we only learn from what we reflect on. And I think a lot of people, like me, tend to be very heads down and going through things and moving forward and focused on what's ahead of us. And we seldom turn and look at and learn from what's behind us, or even what's with us right here, right now. We're so busy and so focused on what's next. So I love that. I think that's brilliant advice to.
Actually, another very interesting thing I want to tell you, and this is happening in Calgary. I'm starting story circles with people here in Calgary, and I just did a workshop to train 10 people how to use story circles in the people that they have contact with. And I just finished this week my pilot story circle with adults. And for 4 weeks, 6 adults met at my house, and we discussed and we reflected on a story by Margaret Atwood, Polarities. And I'm telling you, they said that was one of the best things they've ever done. And you know what they all said? It was because we read a little piece and then we go home and do some stuff. And then we read a little piece, and they said it was that reflection during the week when they thought about it. And then their mind was allowed to bring their learning from it. And it's the reflection that's so important. And that's why it's important to write it down. And you see, what we're doing in schools with kids is so bad because we're not giving them time to reflect. Every 40 or 50 minutes, they've got to move to another class and a whole new thing to think about. And there's never a chance to think and reflect on it, except if you're studying at home, I suppose. But why can't we slow down? Do fewer things and reflect on them and really learn from them. But yeah. I think young people who are just starting out really need to think about that. And if I had started that journal when I was young, just imagine what I would have a treasure trove. I have 15 or 20 of them right now already.
Wow.
But there's one thing I thought that I could say that you can do. And so, in other words, it's kind of purposeful when you're making this contact with people. You have to be purposeful and think, yes, I'm learning from other people. And if you want to find your gifts and talents, it's a really good way to find them.
So let me understand that a little bit more. How does meeting other people and being curious about them and journaling, how does that help us tap into what our gifts are? How do we extrapolate that from there?
Well, I have a lot of people who come to my house almost every day, strangers that many of them I've never met, but people send them. And you know what? Every one of them I can learn things from because they're doing different things and they have different gifts and talents. But as they share them with me, then I can say, oh yes, well I could use that. That's something I could do. And that's how you learn. Because you get their experience and you say, oh well yeah, I'm good at that. I'm really good at entertaining people and that's something I could do. So you learn by other people's experiences and what they find as the really important talents they have. That's what I find anyway, that's probably the biggest way that I have built whatever I've built. It's because I've been very curious about other people. And I don't know how many people that know me and have my friends, but it's a lot. But I was purposeful about that.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Well, okay, so what I hear from that, Vera, is that as we're curious about other people, we start to notice where our attention goes and we see ourselves in the mirrors of other people. We see reflected back to us our gifts and our areas of interest and fascination and our passions. And also what I heard in that is when we show up to be willing to serve, because what you said is, oh yes, I can help you with that, or yes, I'm good at this, or yes, I can help with that. When we show up to be willing to serve, that often in the path of our pleasure and our capabilities, in there is our gifts. In our natural default of where we want to serve, how we want to show up, we find who we really are.
And once you find that, then you can start searching for opportunities. And then you get a passion. And in many cases, that can become a business or something you pursue in life. It might help you in your occupation, or you might become a counselor to other people because you've discovered how to find that. And everyone's searching for that. They're searching for happiness.
Yeah.
And happiness is knowing who you are and being able to serve. I think everybody would agree with that.
I love that definition. Happiness is knowing who you are and being able to serve.
For me, it is anyway.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's beautiful. All right, so just in our last few minutes, what advice would you have for younger women who are starting out? Because we've talked about this in terms of turning their passion and their purpose into something they possibly do for a business. We've talked a bit about that. But looking back now, let's put it this way. What advice would you give your younger self? So knowing what you know now, what would you have told that 20-year-old or even 30-year-old? What would you have told her that you know now that she didn't know then?
That's so hard for me to answer because I had quite a difficult life. I didn't think I was following my passion for a number of years because of everything that happened. But when I look back, they were all things that were building in me the ability to do what I'm doing now. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about doing it, because I spent so many years in the wilderness learning all sorts of lessons that I don't think didn't seem like they were contributing at all to what I was doing. But through it all, I had a passion for helping people and for collaborating with people and for making them my friends and for doing things for them and helping others. And that was always my focus. And I think that if you're doing that, it's like if at work, if you think you're doing it just a little better than everybody else because you want to really contribute and you want to be a model and you want to, it's, our whole life is formed by the choices that we make, and those are conscious choices. So I'm going to choose to be just a little bit not better than others, but do my job really well so that I am a model for others to follow. And I feel sorry for women right now because their lives are so terribly busy. They're working and they've got a house to run and they've got kids with all kinds of homework. And I've written a book against homework, so I'm very, very, you could get me going on that. I'll really get on that. I think it's really awful. But anyway, so I feel sorry for women. So they have to really purposefully try to do some of the things I've talked about and become conscious of their choices, and the people that in their lives who are not serving them well, try to get rid of them in some nice way, but be nice to everyone. I mean, really. I don't know.
So the advice you'd give your younger self is be willing to make some tough choices and have people who aren't serving your best interests out of your life. Be willing to not try so hard to do everything and be everything because you're working really, really, really hard. So to be willing to let some of that go, or to be willing to get more support or something, and to really follow the curiosity.
Time for reflection.
And reflect. To pause.
That's kind of what, when we sit and meditate and stuff, it's part of that reflection. But we have to take a little bit of time every day, I think, to reflect on what's happened and where our strengths are and what we could do next.
So on that note, let's finish on that note, because I think the reflection piece is really valuable. But for many people, reflecting is just stewing in anger, resentment, or frustration, or whatever story they're telling about it. So how do you reflect versus just tell stories about what's been happening? So what does reflection mean? How do you reflect? Do you ask yourself a question? Do you ask your guides questions? How do you reflect versus just rehash stories in your head?
That's a huge question.
I know. We had to end on something light.
I know that the writing is a big piece of it, because when you're writing down. You can write out your frustrations too, but I have come to a very great piece in my life because I've been able to give over things, and that's a long story. But and I went through a lot of years of frustration and all kinds of things, which everybody does. And of course, you can say you're old and you don't have as much pressure on you now. Well, I don't in many ways. So I don't know. That's really good question, but I think it's trying to still your mind and trying to think on the positive side of things. And, you know, there's a big one, and our friend Annette Stanwyck is huge on this, and it's forgiveness.
Mm.
Because a lot of our anger and everything is because we don't forgive.
Mm-hmm.
And I carried a grudge for a lot of my life, and my family suffered from me talking about it, and I'm so sad that I did that.
Mm.
I should have just forgiven, because, you know, who did it? Did it bother the people that I had my grudge against?
No.
Not one bit. They weren't feeling bad about it at all. But it did restrict my life, and it caused me a lot of stress I didn't need to have. And it's one of the things I'll warn young women about is just forgive things, forget them, and carry on. And that's been hard for me, but now I'm able to do it.
Cool. That's great advice. Thank you so much for being here, Vera. And by the way, no, we didn't email each other about what to wear. Oops. See, it's time for you to go, clearly. But if you would like to reach Vera, you can reach her at vera@readingwings.com and go check out her website, readingwings.com, to find out some of the many things that she's up to. And can they sign up for your newsletter on that site?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
Or you can email me and tell me your story. I love to hear stories. I never talked today about the power of story, but it is the most powerful thing in the world. Oh my goodness.
So thank you for being a carrier of stories. Like I was saying, in, you know, those older traditions, the native traditions that I know you're very fond of, they kept alive their heritage and their culture through stories. And I think you're doing that in the world as well. So thank you for being a bearer of stories, positive, helpful stories, not the crap most of us tell ourselves all day long. And thank you so much for caring so much about people, especially kids, but people being able to access the wonderful world of reading and books, and doing so much for so long to make sure that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people who've been helped over the years by you. So thank you for being an incredible, indomitable stand in the world. You are one of my inspirations, Vera.
Thanks. And you are mine too.
Thank you, sweetie.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. And again, that's readingwings.com or Vera at readingwings.com. Thanks for being here, sweetheart. And I'll see you soon at CAPS or somewhere else along the way.
We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.